balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic. Providing context on today's events, this is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Well, before I get into tonight's show, I'm going to have to do a Proud Papa moment. All right, Proud Papa. So, apparently, my children, of course, both of them, they have a sarcastic sense of humor. And, no, like, really? Anyway, they kind of got it from both Mrs. Whiskey and myself, but, my daughter, and both of them have the sarcastic sense of humor, but my daughter adds a very healthy helping of attitude. And a lot of that has to deal with, I mean, she's had it ever since she was born. I mean, her first thing, the very first sentence that she could actually fully form was always, "I got this," meaning that leave her alone. She's going to do it. Okay. Well, he surprised me yesterday with a gift. And this gift is it's a shirt. I would be wearing it except for the fact that it's kind of hard to show because of the way the camera is. It's kind of hard to show the whole thing. So I'm just going to back up a little bit here, and I'm going to show you what the shirt says in front of it. For those of you that are on the audio portion of the program, it basically says, "Awesome, like my daughter." Oh, yeah, like I said, she is, she has attitude. So anyway, I got a few of these kinds of shirts running around, but yeah. Occasionally they come in and they All right, let's go ahead and get things kicked off. Tonight, let's see. Tonight, I believe, is my news. Yes, my news for the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one, like me. Place your hand over your heart and follow along with my news as she recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic of which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And, of course, I thank you, My News, for that wonderful rendition of the pledge. If you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself reciting or performing the pledge in your style. Take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, attach it to an email, and address that email to me. Send it off to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. And I will get you into the rotation. I have 23. I'd like to get to 26 by the end of 2026. So if you haven't done one and you're a fan of the show, I'd appreciate it if you would go ahead and send one in. I need 3 more. And if you do it on your phone, you can utilize the share option. That's the SHARE option. And you'll be able to send it off to me that way, sending it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. One other thing I forgot to mention about my daughter. So she had to do she didn't have to. She volunteered to give a speech on Veterans Day when she was in elementary school. And as we were getting the speech prepared, she came up with probably the greatest line ever that is still running along with this. So she went through and she talked about my history and in the service and that kind of stuff. But she also talked about our family history, and she talked about, my son being born, and then of course her birth. And she of course called out her birthday, and she says, and that was the day that he gained his greatest gift ever. So there you go. Yeah, like I said, she is full of attitude. Anyway, all right, let's go ahead. I'm wearing one of their shirts. This is the top of the episode promo. So I'm wearing one of their shirts. They have all these shirts in fantastic colors and styles, and you can get them by heading off to theflagshirt.com. That's theflagshirt.com. And there you go. There's theflagshirt.com. You head on over to their website, check out their men's, women's, made in the USA, kids, accessories, all in the fantastic red, white, and blue. And they have all kinds of patriotic stuff. Plus, you can also check out their America's 250th Anniversary Collection. Right now, they're running a special. If you spend $100, you get $20 off by using the code PATRIOT2026. Once again, that's spending $100, you get $20 off with the code PATRIOT2026. That's heading on over to theflagshirt.com, spend $100, get $20 off with the code PATRIOT2026. And if you decide that you can't or won't, either way, it doesn't really matter, spend that kind of money, I'm going to help you out because I have a special code as well. If you head on over to flagshirt.americanperspective.online, that's flagshirt.americanperspective.online, you'll be presented with a coupon code that you can copy and paste into the promo code box at checkout at theflagshirt.com and get yourself $5 off on American Perspective. Go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online, copy and paste the coupon code that you are presented into the promo code box at checkout at theflagshirt.com and get $5 off your order. Head on over to theflagshirt.com and get yourself patriotized. All right. It's funny sometimes to watch the closed captioning. I keep forgetting which side is which. Anyway, the closed captioning over here, because sometimes it messes up how I'm enunciating things to be able to catch the words. So anyway, well, Iran finally got a hit on us. Yes, one of our reported to be a F-15 Eagle, an F-15E. One of ours was shot down, and a rescue mission is underway. They did pick up one of the two crew members. So the F-15E is a two-seater aircraft crewed by two people, and they were able to pick up one almost immediately, but search and rescue efforts apparently continue. Now, of course, Iran basically was like, hey, we shot that thing down. Don't worry. We're going to shoot down more. And it's like, really? With what? I mean, yeah, again, a broken clock is right twice a day, and occasionally everybody gets lucky. I mean, every dog has their day. Some dogs have two, they say. But anyway, So prayers go out for that missing crew member. Hopefully they are found alive and relatively unhurt. Ejection out of an aircraft, though, is really rough. Your body is experiencing serious, massive amounts of G forces, and you get tossed about like essentially like a freaking rag doll. There's not much that you can do about it when you're injecting out of one of these things. So, yeah. Anyway. All right. So for those of you who are kind of saying, oh, the Republicans caved on the DHS thing. John Thune actually kind of says, well, yeah, that's not quite the case. And I sort of tend to agree. I mean, yeah, all right. So they agreed to fund the DHS separately from ICE and Border Patrol. But let's be honest. The whole purpose of this on the Democrat side had nothing to do with the funding. I mean, ICE in particular had already had funding from the One Big Beautiful Bill. And so did Border Patrol. What they wanted was to get reforms, which weren't reforms. They were more like restrictions. And most of the things that they asked for, it was already being implemented anyway. So it's not like they really gained anything or lost anything with the shutdown, which is part of the reason why it's sort of a question as to what the hell, why would you even bother to do it? And now with this new plan where they're going to separate the rest of DHS funding from the ICE and Border Patrol and put the ICE and Border Patrol over a reconciliation bill, which does not require a filibuster-proof majority to keep from filibustering. It's just a simple majority. So realistically, I mean, the Democrats, all of this grandstanding and everything else is, if everything goes according to the current plan, is pretty much over with. I mean, they will have gained nothing other than pissing off the American people once again for shutting everything down. And, even when Chuck Schumer was asked about it and saying, hey, what did you guys get out of this besides the political grandstanding? And even he couldn't answer it. I mean, not effectively. Even he couldn't answer it. So, yeah. We'll see what happens, of course, after this. But realistically, I mean, yes, I understand there's a lot of people who are mad at Thune. I personally think he's not the best choice for the Senate lead. But he definitely doesn't have the cojones to be in that spot right now in comparison, but it is what it is. It's who they chose. And so therefore, we got to live with them until such time as we can either change leaders or something happens or whatever, one or everything. Anyway, it is what it is. So they are eventually going to get everything. The Republicans are eventually likely to get everything that they want out of all this. So, there you go. Anyway, all right. Let's shift gears here and go and focus in California. We know Minnesota had a whole bunch of fraud. Well, now the federal anti-fraud task force, headed up by none other than Vice President Vance, has essentially landed its first win. Well, we're calling it a win. So the Anti-Fraud Task Force has suspended 221 California hospice and healthcare providers so far. You remember the articles that I was telling you about, how they had like one hospice, 89 hospice care, supposed hospice care service companies were all located in the exact same building, that they found that out. And then when they went to the building, it looked completely empty. and it had stacked up mail on the floor from like months of nobody collecting it. Yeah. Well, they finally have taken care of that. So yeah, they, Dr. Oz is a part of this, as well as, the Department of Justice has been a part of this. 221 providers in Los Angeles have been suspended due to suspected fraud, including a number of providers that were actually raided by federal authorities on Thursday morning. This number of suspensions marks more than 215% increase from the 70 providers that were initially suspended in Los Angeles the previous week as a result of the task force. So, yeah. I'm going to be honest with you. This is a good profile building thing for J.D. Vance within the Republican Party. Now, obviously, it's not going to make any friends in the Democrat Party with this, or even with any leftists that aren't really part of the Democrat Party. Although, what am I saying? Leftists and Democrats, they kind of are, one and the same. But the fact of the matter is news like this and results like this, especially if they stick and we get to see, for lack of a better term, perp walks on these kinds of things, this could be a big profile build for J.D. Vance in the lead up to the 2028 presidential election, should he decide to go ahead and run. Well, the fact that this is happening in California, though, may elevate J.D. Vance's profile, but it also is smacking the head of none other than oil gel hair himself, Gruesome Newsom. Well, Newsom is getting all pissed off, and you can tell when you're over the target at to how pissed off these people actually are. Okay? So Newsom, of course, went on X after all of this was presented. And by the way, the report that came out about this is based on interviews with the officials and experts, as well as analysis of audits, data from local governments, criminal indictments, other public records. I mean, there is a mountain of evidence in all of this. Well, Newsom, kind of like Tim Walz, okay, Tim Walz with all of the fraud that happened in Minnesota. I don't know if anybody sits there and counts their blessings that man did not end up as our vice president of the United States. I honestly, if you don't, man, you really should, because, oh, how much trouble would we be in right now if Cackles and Tampon Tim ended up in office. Whew. Anyway, back to Gruesome Newsom. He went to X, or at least his press office went to X, and posted, "Money laundering is fraud. Information laundering, where unsourced slop gets laundered through multiple right-wing quote-unquote news outlets, is fraud on the public." Except that's not, fraud, because that's the truth. Anyway, it continued and says, "The New York comic book cites facts completely unsourced, thinly sourced, or simply made up by a right-wing activists posing as journalists with a straight face, knowing that other outlets and social media will misleadingly repeat and amplify." Well, one of the authors of the report that was found, he responded to the governor while he was on Fox Business. That's none other than Christopher Rufo. And Christopher Rufo said, "Gavin Newsom is definitely becoming associated with the word fraud, but it's not for fighting it. It's for enabling it." And he continues and says, "Even under the most conservative estimates, experts from Harvard, from the Department of Health and Human Services, from LexisNexis Fraud Division, have all told us that the fraud in California is unprecedented and it represents the largest financial crime in American history. Now, I'm trying to figure that out. Not that I'm saying that this is wrong, but I'm trying to understand. You have $180 million. $180 million is what they have so far that they've been able to track, reportedly, against the $9 billion or more potentially in Minnesota. So I think Minnesota and California are now in a race to figure out who is going to be the one who perpetrated the largest financial crime in American history. Yeah. So I don't know. Anyway. Oh, and actually Rufo does suggest that California is the leader, because he says some estimates say as high as 50 or 60 billion. Yes, that's with a B. 50 or 60 billion dollars a year from the state of California, from federal taxpayers who actually send money to the state. So, yeah. So, one report found that the sum of fraud just under Newsom's watch alone may have cost the taxpayers a staggering sum of $180 billion with a B. $180 billion with a B. Anyway, California Post editorial board, who broke the story, says fraud here is colossal, rampant, ongoing, and well documented. I don't know how anybody. I mean, I'll just be honest with you. If you're a Democrat and you're seeing all of this, and I'm not talking about a leftist Democrat. I'm not talking about the anti-American leftist Democrat. I'm talking about the hardcore, constant, dyed-in-the-wool, union, blue-collar, still loves America, but votes Democrat anyway, voter. The hardcore, blue-collar, working men and women of this country who have voted Democrat because their unions tell them to, and so on and so forth. But I got to tell you, if you're a Democrat, if you're voting Democrat and you are not for giving taxpayer dollars to scammers and fraudsters and criminals, you might just want to switch your party. I'm not saying that you have to go Republican. You really don't. I mean, you can become an independent. And that may actually be the direction, is to go independent rather than being Democrat. And honestly, Harry Enton, I saw a report, I think it was on Dan Bongino, where Harry Enton was saying that even Democrats are pissed off at Democrats. 55%, it was the number, 55% of Democrat voters don't like the Democrat Party right now. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, I saw that and I was just like, holy crap, that's amazing. That is just absolutely phenomenally amazing. All right. Well, one thing that the Democrats are good at, other than obviously attempting to cover up fraud, is to frame everything with a let's call it a racist bent or a categorization bent, let's just say. And this particular video that I'm about to show you, there was a House representative who's a Democrat. He was at a town hall. And he, one of the things that these people are attempting to try and prove out with this whole, and in this particular case, this is the being against the SAVE Act, being against voter ID being utilized for voting across the board. And for whatever reason, these Democrats seem to think that people go through life without any kind of identification, that these people are going through life in America without having a proper form of ID. Because they go to these town halls, they go in front of the people, and what do? Well, they ask the question. And their responses seem to be, well, less than what they anticipated. Take a look and a listen.
It's about how you feel about voter ID, right? It's not about that. This is about ease of registration, right? The most common form of ID that everybody has is a driver's license, right? I'm of a different era, I'm of a different generation. I probably feel a little bit differently about it. But watch this. How many people in here do not have an ID? Right? Everybody has an ID, right? So my thoughts on it a little bit differently. I can get it. 20, 30, 40 years ago was a lot different. A lot more.
He tried to cover it up. Do you hear that? He says, how many people in here? Now, keep in mind, he's speaking to what I anticipate is a predominantly person of color audience. And he's like, how many people in this? And this is in a church. For those of you that are on the audio portion of the program, he's at a town hall meeting within a church, which, you know, the thought just occurred to me. Sorry, but my brain went there. You know, for a Democrat, and Democrats being so against church and state because they keep talking about the wall of separation between church and state, how is it that this representative is speaking about politics within a church? Anyway, I'm sorry. I digress. So he got the surprise, obviously, of his life there, because he essentially, was surprised that, oh, wait, everybody in here has a ID. Okay. Everybody has an, oh, well, you know, okay, well, I'm from a different generation. Really? Do you honestly, I mean, he's trying to cover it up as a generational issue. It's not. It's definitely not a generational issue. Oh my gosh, these people. I got to tell you. And it's not just the Democrats themselves. It's also anybody who is a part of the whole DEI kind of thing. You know, the whole DEI has permeated everywhere, which brings me to the next subject, or the next topic, which is our title topic. But before I bring that into play, let's talk really quickly about coffee, because I enjoy my morning coffee. I have a big old mug. Again, father like no other. Man, I'm telling you, my kids, they come up with all kinds of stuff. Father like no other 16-ounce mug that I drink out of. But if you still haven't tried 1775 coffee, now is your shot. The 1775 starter kit has dropped. A small number of units are available, and in each unit, you're getting the bold dark roast that hits hard. You'll be receiving the smooth medium roast and the Vitality Mushroom Coffee that gives you clean energy and laser focus with no crash. All of these coffees are single origin, small batch, toxin-free, and mold-free. Plus, you'll also be receiving the gold spoon clip, because freedom isn't scooped with plastic, as well as a frother that is strong enough to stir up not only your coffee, but also your mother-in-law's opinions. Doesn't take much to do that. Just saying. You'll also be receiving a black 1775 tumbler. It's $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for just the low, low price of $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 coffee blow up on Rumble and wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler alert, it is. Go to 1775coffee.com. That's the numbers 1775, the word coffee, all together, all one word, .com /studio, STUDIO, and grab your starter kit before they disappear. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio, STUDIO, and grab your starter kit before they are gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit today. All right. So, I don't know if anybody, I mean, some people in Florida, actually. Some of my Whiskey Warrior P1s were a little miffed that they didn't get a chance to see the Artemis 2 launch. But yes, we do have a crew, a space crew. You know, you can always tell when something is no longer in vogue. And the reason that I say that is because, you know, growing up after having been born shortly after, I'm using that term a little loosely, but shortly after we went to the moon and back multiple times, okay, flying off into space just doesn't seem to, outside of the people who sit there and watch the rockets, you know, there really isn't a lot of attention necessarily in the news media. It's sort of like you almost have to dig to page 3 or 4 in order to find it in a newspaper. Oh my God, I just dated myself because nobody uses newspapers anymore. Anyway, the point that I'm making is that the Artemis 2 launch took off, and a couple of days ago, and, you know, a day or two ago, whatever it was. And anyway, apparently they had a problem of their poop. Their toilet broke. They needed a plumber. Reports are that they were able to fix it, though, which is a good thing, because that would suck, being stuck in space, not being able to poop. I mean, it's bad enough to be on a boat and not being able to poop. At least you can hang your butt out of the water or over the water and take care of business that way if you need to. You're just a little embarrassed because you're flying in the public space, but you can't just open a window in space, let me just tell you. Anyway, so the Artemis 2 crew apparently went out and they've done a couple of transmissions. They've done some things. You know, they've talked a little bit to the grounds crew and so on and so forth. And, you know, when you have fantastical events, like, for an example, the Columbia, you know, shuttle disaster, the Challenger shuttle disaster, you have things like that, you know, Apollo 13, things of that nature. That's when everybody, you know, grabs onto the spacecraft stuff. But this Artemis 2 trip, I mean, other than the Lou having a problem, really has been fairly uneventful. And not anybody has really been asking too much questions in terms of, hey, what is this for? I mean, we're heading to the moon. Okay, great. But you have the naysayers and the deniers, and they're all saying, oh, no, we've never been to the moon, and this is just another, they've already started. This is just another fake story. They've got some set out in, I don't know, out in the middle of the desert somewhere in New Mexico or whatever it is that they say that all of these things are happening. I mean, we don't have a rover on Mars. We just have this thing running around in the desert, you know, quote unquote, sending pictures back. It's all fake. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I digress. So the Artemis 2 crew they did a stream back to Earth here. They talked about life aboard the Orion spacecraft. They are on a historic mission. They technically have traveled the farthest from Earth, manned space travel. They have traveled the farthest from Earth on this mission. Now, reportedly, they're going around the moon and then coming back. It's basically just sort of like a test run to make sure that we can actually get there safely and return again, since the last time that we did it was, you know, Apollo 17. But anyway, one of the astronauts, Christina Koch, says that she's been sleeping upside down. And they're trying to find out how to make the space capsule a home. and some other things. But they were having a conversation. Now, before I do this, I got to show you the picture of the picture of the crew. So if you look here, you can take it. Oops, sorry. Let me move this up. Come on. Up. Oh, I'm at the top. Oh, hold on. Let me recenter this because I didn't mean to do that. Nope, even that was worse. I guess my Zoom function ain't that great. Anyway, there we go. So there's the crew. Okay. So there's the crew. And they were talked about, reporters were asking them questions. Now, to me, if I were a reporter, one of the things that probably would be on my mind would be things like, oh, hey, to the woman on the crew, how do you feel being the only woman on the crew in a space that's probably less than, 400 square feet and having to, change and, I don't know, shower? I'm assuming that they shower up there or have some sort of a way to like clean themselves, from bacteria and stuff that's growing on their bodies or whatever it is. That kind of stuff. I mean, you might even ask questions like, hey, how do you feel to be the first humans that are headed back to the moon since, Apollo 17? Or you might want to ask a question like, hey, what is different about the Artemis 2 spacecraft and the Orion spacecraft than comparison to, say, the Apollo spacecraft? You might want to talk about the science experiments that they are attempting to, potentially do, or maybe talk a little bit, get more details about what it is that they're focusing on. And maybe if any one of those four dreams of possibly being the second or third or fourth or whatever, walking on the moon, how do you guys feel like this is a good use of time or whatever? I mean, just a whole slew of other questions that could come into play. Yeah, this particular reporter, who apparently is a ardent leftist, decided to ask the one singular crew member, who happens to be a person of color, Victor Glover. Victor Glover, by the way, will be the first black astronaut to travel around the moon. Now, that in and of itself is just a fact. I mean, he made it into the program. He got, picked to go on this trip. But what's the first thing that somebody asks? Well, they ask him, and this was a representative of the Telegraph, asks him about how being the first black astronaut to make this journey is, the thing. Now, what's cool about this, though, is that this individual, when he asked the question, Glover, handled it quite well, actually, I think. Handled it quite well. So let's.
It is a big question, and I want to highlight, I guess, maybe one facet of this is the tension, I call it. I live in this, this dichotomy between happiness that a young woman can look at Christina and just physicalize her passion or her interest, or even if it's not something she wants to do, she can just be like girl power, and that's awesome. And that young brown boys and girls can look at me and go, hey, he looks like me and he's doing what? And that's great. I love that. But I also hope we are pushing the other direction, that one day we don't have to talk about these first, that one day this is just, and I listen to this, that this is the human history. It's about human history. It's the story of humanity, not black history, not women's history, but that it becomes human history.
And there you go, folks. Why would you even, I mean, seriously. everything, folks, is about race to these people. Everything is about race or sex or some sort of orientation or whatever. Okay. And he pointed out the correct answer, which is essentially, hey, this crap, it has nothing to do with me and my skin color. I mean, I agree. It's great that, somebody could look up to me or look up to what I'm doing here and be inspired, to think, hey, yeah, that guy did it. Maybe I can do it too. That kind of stuff. Just like with the women, the women on the trip. Oh, girl power, that kind of thing. But when are we going to get rid of that idea that just because your skin color is different, that you obviously are either in some way you just don't measure up, or if you do measure up, it's like an incredible surprise? Folks, and I'm mostly talking to Democrats here, idiot Democrats. There are smart, intelligent, very capable people of all races. There has been no scientifically proven detrimental aspect of a human when dealing with skin color, in terms of capability, in terms of, intelligence, in terms of anything. I mean, there really isn't. And even though history has had several instances of people trying, there really is nothing there. Why would you even ask that question? Why would it even be a problem? I mean, why would it even be remotely on your mind? I would be asking him like, hey, how do you feel about going to space for your first time? How do you feel about rounding the moon? I mean, are you nervous? I mean, it's just something totally off about that entire question. And why it should even be that big of a deal is beyond me. So I can't. I have met intelligent people in my travels of all races. I have met incredibly stupid people in my travels of all races, sexes, creeds, colors, whatever kind of category that you want to put them in. And not once in my time have I ever sat here and said, oh, well, their skin color is really what is a defining characteristic of this individual. It is because of their skin color that I will make the decision to either work with them or not work with them. What? It is asinine that here we are in 2026 and we're still, because the Democrats keep bringing it back. And yes, I am blaming the Democrats and the leftists. The people who want to categorize individuals into certain sectional boxes. That we keep talking about this. That should have been like maybe the second, third, fourth, fifth question, not your first. Anyway, he handled it very well. Very well, and I applaud him. And congratulations to him for going to the moon. Even though everybody seems to think that because he happens to be a person of color that somehow, is he the token black person? I mean, seriously. that's kind of where that to me, that's like sort of where the reporter was going. He's like the token black person to go up on the flight. Yeah. Anyway, nobody who has any kind of intelligence would even care about the racial makeup of the crew. Nobody who has any kind of intelligence would necessarily think of the sexual orientation and makeup of the crew. Identity shouldn't have played a role in this at all. And if it did, oh my gosh, why? I mean, no offense, but if I were a member of that crew and identity played a reason as to why this individual was and it was like one of the defining characteristics, and he or she wasn't able to he or she wasn't able to like actually perform their duties in a effective manner, Yeah. Yeah. I just can't. I always laugh whenever I hear that kind of stuff. And I'm not laughing as in like, ha ha, funny. I'm laughing as in, my God, people, shut the hell up about that. Really doesn't matter. Well, I know I've been talking about the birthright citizenship case. It is a huge case, and I get it, but I've got another couple of things here that, again, just demonstrate that the trouble that we're going to be in should the Supreme Court rule against us, meaning against the idea that illegal aliens coming here and dropping babies is just a, birth tourism will be a problem here. It just is. It's going to be. And I've got a story on that in just a second. But first, Wesley Hunt, who's a representative from Texas, he spends 80 seconds totally destroying the idea of the birthright citizenship, meaning that you're being born here, simply makes you a citizen. And I want you to take a listen to this. So this is a black individual who is a descendant of a slave who is dropping some truth bombs here. Take a listen.
There's a difference between giving citizenship to the children of slaves, the children of those subject to the Middle Passage, the children of sharecroppers, and the children of those who were once considered property, and giving citizenship to the children of people who crossed the border illegally, stay in taxpayer-funded luxury hotels. There's a big difference. My great-great-grandfather was born on a plantation, Rosedown Plantation in Louisiana. He had to join the Union Color Guard to gain his freedom. By morphing the citizenship clause into something that it wasn't meant to be, it's demeaning to descendants of slaves like me. We are talking about a direct descendant of a slave that earned the right to be in this country and passed that ilk down to his ancestry. People bled for it, and it means something. The purpose of President Trump's birthright citizenship executive order is that the citizenship clause of the 14th Amendment was never meant to apply to children of illegal or legal aliens. Allowing birthright citizenship to stay in place dilutes the citizenship of not just Black Americans like me, but every single American citizen that had to earn it the right way. Let's say this in black and white. Either you're a U.S. citizen or you are not. Now, the left has spent decades cheapening what it means to be an American citizen. They've quite literally been chipping away at the basic value of American citizenship. They pretend to be altruistic. We know the truth.
So there you go. That's right. And the thing about it is that coming from a person of color who is an actual descendant of slaves makes it even all the more powerful. But this story highlights what I was talking about last night with regards to this topic. That people don't seem to understand that this kind of thing is more likely to become much more common as we get to the point where these children of these illegal aliens who come here, drop the baby, gain citizenship by mere presence within our borders, go back to their home country, get raised like their home country people are, and then come back here and potentially cause us harm. I don't know if anybody saw this, okay? But there were a man and a woman who entered the United States illegally 3 decades ago, were arrested by the Department of Homeland Security after their children brought an explosive device onto a military base. So these 2 Chinese illegal aliens entered the United States in the 90s. They were denied asylum. They remained in the country for several decades. They had 2 children as they illegally resided within the country. And last week, the Department of Justice charged the 27-year-old daughter with her part as she was attempting to explode an IED at MacDill Air Force Base Visitors Center in Tampa. Now, folks, this is exactly what I'm talking about here. This is exactly the problem that we have with this idea that just because you are born within the border, that you automatically are conferred citizenship. See, citizenship is beyond that. It's beyond just being born here. That's one part of it, but it is not the only part of it. And this is the problem that we have. Now, this particular example only has to deal with a potential terrorism piece out of this, going and blowing up an IED on a military visitor's point on a military base. But again, I contend, what about the, quote, Manchurian candidate who goes and runs for the presidency because they just happen to be born here? Who runs for the presidency and the vice presidency, because don't forget, both you have two of those officers that go into the executive branch. The vice presidency and the presidency, they run for it, they attain it, and they have foreign connections due to their parents, which, as I showed you last night, the whole purpose of the term natural born in the Constitution is 100% traceable and due to the fact that the framers, that the founders, they all wanted zero foreign influence in our government. And it's these people that realistically are potentially going to be coming back here. And yes, this is a Chinese American individuals, or two individuals, because her and her brother did it, allegedly did it. But the point here that I'm trying to make is this is, in my view, it's just as important, if not even more important, than the voter ID. Because not only do you have these people who could potentially run for office based on today's mistaken interpretation of what natural born or being born in America actually means, but you have the potential of a very large voting block, because every single one of these born people, American-born people, who then get taken to their home countries and then brought back later when they are of voting age, that is a very large voting block that could be returning. And if they were to be coordinated into voting the exact same way, and trust me, as of right now, it's really not all that hard. All they would have to do is vote Democrat. As an example, you would have problems across the board. That would completely usurp our republic altogether. These are the hidden dangers that we have with this whole idea of being able to just come across our border, drop a baby, and automatically have that baby become a citizen. It's really not that hard to add an additional clarification and basically say, hey, if your parents are recognized, politically speaking, recognized nationally speaking, as either being naturalized citizens or in some other category a permanent resident, not an illegal alien or even a legal alien, but the fact that you have made all of your, everything that you've done, you want to be an American citizen, and you're willing to get naturalized, swear against, like I pointed out the other day, swear against all allegiances that you may have had in your past, so on and so forth, and you become naturalized within this country, your parents do, then absolutely, the child born to those types of parents are American citizens. But if that person, if all you're doing, for an example, if all you're doing is coming up here from Mexico, legally or illegally, you know, working a job up here in America, and you drop a kid, yeah, your kid is a Mexican citizen, not an American one. Because you're here in a transient nature. You are not here to make America your permanent home. You have very little allegiance to the country. And that is where that subject to the jurisdiction thereof, meaning fully and wholly subject to the jurisdiction thereof, is why they chose that phrasing very, very carefully. And wanted to make it absolutely certain that it was completely understood, as everybody does right now, that the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments were clearly focused on the newly freed slaves. That's what it was focused on. It had nothing to do with illegal aliens or even legal aliens coming here to work. None of that was a part of the discussion or even a part of their belief system back then. It was not intended to cover those people. I'm telling you, this is an existential crisis. If the Supreme Court goes against us and opens up the door to basically say that birthright citizenship, to birth tourism, is completely legal under the Constitution, yeah, that's literally going to be, in my opinion, the turning point and the end of our republic as it stands. And that's why I'm so taken by this particular subject. Anyway. All right, folks. Let me see here. Oh, this, in terms of illegal immigrants, there was a story that popped in the Daily Caller that I think is kind of interesting. And the reason why is because Democrats in Virginia, they are, you know, they love their illegals. Democrats as a whole love their illegal immigrants, illegal aliens. They love them. Well, this statistic came out by the Department of Homeland Security, which says that 75% of Fairfax County, and yes, that's in Virginia, but 75% of the murders that occurred this year allegedly committed by illegals. And the Democrats sit here and talk about, oh, yeah, the illegals, statistically, they do not commit as many crimes. Well, okay, you can sit here and manipulate statistics however you want, but this statistic seems a little out of place. That 3/4 of your murders within one particular county were allegedly committed by illegal aliens. 3 out of 4 suspects facing trial for murder in Fairfax County, Virginia this year entered the U.S. illegally. We are less safe with illegal aliens being here within our midst. We are less safe. That's just a fact, folks. It's just a fact. No matter how much the Democrats and the leftists want to say, oh, no, this isn't the case. No. Yeah. And by not adhering to or not recognizing the detainers that ICE and the Border Patrol put out, these leftist Democrat states and cities and counties, they are all making America less safe. Every single one of them. Keep voting Democrat, people, and you'll see the end of America as we know it. Alrighty, folks, that is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time that I go live. Also, too, don't forget, tomorrow night is Saturday, so we're 1 hour later. That's 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. And before you take off, hit those thumbs up, thumbs downs, or in the case of 3 Chevy, as he's already done, the thumb sideways across the board. We will see you tomorrow night. As I said, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.